Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all our esteemed participants. Today, we are going to have another webinar of CIRDAP on our recently completed project, which was organized by one of our link institute of CIRDAP in India, NIRDPR. And the webinar is going to happen on Action Lab for Inclusion of Transgender and Gender Variant Youths in Mainstream Livelihood. So now I'm requesting our Honorable Director General of CIRDAP, Dr. P. Chandrasekhara sir, for commencing this webinar. Sir, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ren. Good morning to all of you. Welcome to CIRDAP webinar series. A special thanks to Dr. Sandhya Gopakumaran and Dr. Abhinav Datta for accepting our invitation and sparing your valuable time and experience before the participants. Thank you very much. In fact, this talk is based on CIRDAP National Institute of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj, Hyderabad, India. It is a collaborative project. It was carried out in India, and it worked with rural transgenders and for creating livelihood opportunities for them. My special thanks to Dr. Sandhya for, not only keeping a iron framework for this research project and completing the formalities, but keeping it wide open, and as the time passed, joining with many stakeholders, making it more flexible and dynamic. So there are many more lessons than what we intended for. This is a very interesting project through livelihood opportunities converted into a inclusive development. Such a wonderful initiative. This may be very small, but it is a very giant step in the field of developing a livelihood opportunity for transgenders. With this, again, I would like to welcome Dr. Sandhya Gopakumaran and Dr. Abhinav Datta with a brief introduction. Dr. Sandhya Gopakumaran is Director, Training and Development of National Institute of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj. It is a autonomous organization under Ministry of Rural Development and Government of India, and she is handling a very important flagship program of Government of India called the linked flagship scheme of millions of young people in India. They got skilled under this flagship program. Thank you, Dr. Sandhya Gopakumaran, and also she is supported by Dr. Abhinav Datta. He is a development professional and a public policy researcher working on transgender and sexual minority rights, livelihoods, and social inclusion across India. He comes with a very wide experience, and he lent a very solid support at ground for project implementation. So thank you, Dr. Sandhya and Dr. Abhinav. Floor is yours.
Your Excellency, it's our privilege and pleasure to be able to present the findings of the WIRDP CIRDAP funded project on the Action Lab for livelihood inclusion for transgender rural youth of the country. With your permission, I will begin with sharing a slide. So I once again welcome all the esteemed participants to this webinar. And on behalf of NIRDPR, greetings to all of you. We will share our journey and the experience of conducting this action lab for improving the livelihood opportunities of rural transgender youth of the country. It would sound a little like a journey, a story, which we hope will share certain insights or certain takeaways and best practices, which could be emulated for future course of research and action in not only India, but in other countries as well. We also look forward to receiving suggestions and further support and insights from other countries so as to enrich our further research and action for the purpose of improvement of the livelihoods of rural transgender population. I begin with invoking the Sustainable Development Goals 2030. When we speak about attaining these sustainable development goals, there are very many aspects and there are multi-pronged approaches in place being adopted and taken up on war footing. However, fundamentally, what we feel is that for sustainable development goals to be achieved, the core aspect is every human being will have to act as a unit, practicing in letter and spirit what is known as inclusion. Only if we all adopt the practice of inclusion at home, at work, at public place, then we will be able to achieve what is known as justice, equity, and equality. It is on that premise that we also look to unpack the terminology, the term called inclusion. What could actually inclusion mean? So on the basis of certain insights gained from the project, just sharing certain aspects which we all probably are practicing in our day-to-day lives, or probably we are forgetting as well. So we could treat this as a kind of a revisit or a refresher on what we should be looking at as inclusion to be practiced to achieve development as as practitioners. First aspect is the feeling of physical safety, not just for ourselves but also for others at home, at public places. Is everyone made to feel safe, or am I contributing to that factor as a person? The second aspect is about emotional security. How well are we able to make someone who is a co-worker or who is another family member, how well are we able to make somebody emotionally secure? This is another practice of inclusion we probably would all be practicing. The third aspect is to make sure the access to education to one and all, and facilitating the same, facilitating the next one in terms of the right to life, and then as one grows up further, facilitating one's awareness of rights. Then the other aspect of inclusion is ensuring not just right to livelihood but also sustainable livelihood, because we are in this VUCA world, and there is so much of uncertainty and volatility around us. How are we in a position to be able to, as development professionals, consider the not only the livelihood aspects of the mainstream, but also those who are marginalized? The other is in terms of access to opportunities. The core aspect of inclusion is in terms of making sure that is everyone included, is everyone taken together. These are fundamental questions that we generally tend to ask ourselves in the whole practice of inclusion. And last but not the least, something very important and what we may see in highly evolved development space is the ability for all of us to act as enablers to make choices for others. The more the choices, the more the enablement, the more the empowerment, and the more the inclusion. So when we speak in terms of Sustainable Development Goals 2030, or when we are in India speaking about Viksit Bharat or Developed India 2047, fundamentally, we need to be practicing as each human being the aspect, the element of inclusion in letter and spirit, following the principles of integral humanism, which is couched in the word Antyodaya, that is the rise of the last, or what is known as Sarvodaya, the rise of everyone, that Mahatma Gandhi and Deen Dayal Upadhyay spoke about. Now, that said, I hope the slide is moving and you are able to see the slide which shows a set of people on the fringes.
Yeah, yes,
yeah, thank you. So, however, when we are speaking about the importance of inclusion, we start to think about those who are marginalized. And here we also need to not, when you're talking about the rise of the last, we are also in a obliged to think about the marginalized of the marginalized. And here we chose to look at, for the Action Lab, the group who are largely invisible and not much thought about, spoken about in the mainstream, and that is the transgender population. So on that note, we would like to open the entire introduction to the Action Lab for inclusion of transgender and gender variant youths in mainstream livelihood, our experience journey. I would like to place on record once again our sincere gratitude to His Excellency, the Director General of CIRDAP, our former Director General and current Director General, and also the implementation partners, the Plexus India Foundation, based in Baripur, West Bengal, Sahodari Foundation, Pollachi, Coimbatore, and Usha International. We will be sharing how they were joining us in this journey as we proceed with the experience sharing. So the objective of the Action Lab has been to explore and strengthen what is more important, the way we opened the discussion on inclusive. It's not just about being inclusive, but what ensures inclusivity is a sustainable livelihood pathways for the most marginalized groups. We chose to look at rural and peri-urban transgender and gender variant persons in this Action Lab. The context we would like to share here was that in our country, despite progressive legal recognition and policy commitments in the country, that's something we have been able to experience through a decade. However, a study submitted to NHRC indicated that transgender persons continue to experience persistent exclusion from education systems, from labor markets, institutional support mechanisms, to the effect that a staggering 87% are school dropouts, 98% face homelessness, 92% do not participate in economic activities, and then get into the vicious cycle of the multidimensional poverty. So we thought, how do we begin then? There are, then we looked at various activities already in place in terms of ensuring, the policy and schemes that are already made available in the government of India in terms of access to education, rights awareness, dissemination, etc. Then we thought, let's begin with looking at sustainable livelihood, because with sustainable livelihood comes empowerment, and then better bargaining power and better space for negotiation. So we thought that could be one step to inclusion that we could be looking at. However, still sustainable livelihood is quite a loaded term. How could we further break it down and take it forward in this project? So for that, we had actually conducted a pan-India study before taking up this Action Lab on the existing employment generation initiatives of transgender and gender diverse population from rural spaces. So we identified around 70 initiatives that were already in place. We also studied the success factors and the failure points. And we thought that we could learn from the successes and make sure that the failures don't repeat in what we are attempting to do. If at all we fail fast and make course corrections as quickly as possible. We found that certain enterprise models would be better equipped rather than looking into wage employment opportunities in the organized sectors, because the ecosystem is something that we will not be able to control in an Action Lab context. So we decided to look at enterprise-based initiatives because it could not only empower one or two or a group of transgender individuals, it would also enable them to generate more employment opportunities for other transgender groups. So the objective we have specified is then to begin with establishing action labs with a view to develop a long-term strategy for sustainable model of bridging livelihood gaps, and then to encourage, to create livelihood entrepreneurship role models. Through that, we could develop best practices that could further be integrated into our learnings and dissemination, not only within the country, but for larger purposes. So, but the question once again, why did we choose to call it an action lab? Why an action lab? The idea was to capture and address the complex as well as the context-specific nature of the livelihood exclusion that is faced by transgender and gender variant youth. So wherever there is a problem, we will be able to immediately look at it, understand it, document it, and try to address it. The other is that, as we proceed with an experiment, we will be able to iterate, we'll be able to adapt and quickly integrate learning and implementation. So typically, like how things happen in a lab, we thought we will follow that kind of a process and model. So what actions did we choose to take in the action lab? One is the identification of the livelihood gaps that exist in the beneficiary group, for which we looked at what are the aspirations of transgender youth population, especially rural population. The second is looking based on the insights that we gain from that, we could think of designing certain pilot interventions which are based on evidence and feasibility and through convergence models. The third action, the implementation, and concurrently monitor and document, reflect, and understand what is working, what is not working, and why it is not working. Then immediately course correct, and then integrate the learning into policy inputs and dissemination. So this was the basic concept of the action lab, and this is what we purported to proceed and do. So the key approach that we adopted was the partnership with community-based organization, because we realized that the only way to mobilize and reach the rural transgender person to establish trust, connect, and response is only by working with community-based organizations that work with transgender groups. That was a bridge that we were able to work with. And the second is the entrepreneurship-based model that seemed to be working on the basis of our past study. Third aspect is the adaptive sequencing and adaptive learning. The fourth aspect is we ensure that we are going to look at not just any rural-based transgender person, but more importantly, those who are deprived and trying to involve and engage with the more marginalized from within the transgender community. We also thought it was important to look at practical and non-classroom based skill development initiatives to as a pathway to livelihood, because skill is power. And we also made sure that the entire program design, the intervention would align with their realities, their current livelihood pursuits, and this will not disrupt their ecosystem, and also in line with the rural ethos, also kind of educational constraints and the background that they come from, their concerns of safety. This was one matter we tended to look at. And more importantly, it was not just important that we think of setting up enterprise and skill them, but can we look at what is the demand in the market and work backwards? Can we look at what could be the production cost as we move forward? Whether there's infrastructure available, what are our funding limitations, and all of these factors which were equally challenging as well as important to be considered for ensuring success. So the methodology we began with, livelihood and demographic mapping. We took a sample from the districts in West Bengal, and so that is where we looked at huge data collection, which gave us insights into what are some of the key considerations to be kept in mind as we proceeded with the action lab. Further, we were informed very well with the 70 livelihood initiatives that we had already mapped earlier. So I would invite my colleague and co-researcher, Dr. Avinabha Datta, who has been, like our Director General mentioned, a great source of resource support and connect with the community and establishing trust between the government and the communities. And we are extremely grateful to have Dr. Avinabha Datta as a resource person. And we welcome you, Dr. Avinabha, to share quick insights on the survey that was conducted in the districts of West Bengal. And from there on, we'll proceed with the action lab models.
So thank you once again for the opportunity to me to present the data that we have collected so far. As Madam spoke about, if Madam, if you can go back to the inclusion side a little, the slide on inclusion. Yeah, this one. Yeah, as Madam talked about the different aspects of inclusion here, we try to capture what is the status of different aspects of inclusion within the transgender and the gender variant youths. I mean, like, so we have set up a quantitative research question of 91 questions, I mean, like, which has 91 questions. And then we went to the community with these questions. Of course, we didn't go to the community alone, but then we went to the community in partnership with the community-based organizations that we found suitable at that point of time. And one more important part, that this study was being thought about by that particular organization as well. So there was a match in their aspiration and what we wanted to understand from the field as well. So of course we haven't captured every aspects of life of transgender and the gender variant youth, but then with all the 91 questions that we had set up, we tried to like reflect onto certain aspects of the inclusion. I mean, interestingly, when we talk about livelihood, initially when we talk about livelihood, we thought about thought about just about creating job, or we initially thought about just about creating some of the opportunities where the transgender and the gender variant youth will find it suitable to like to take up as their vocation. However, more we went with the study, more we dive deep into the actual problem, we have realized that finding job or finding economic activities, participating in economic activities, or finding the right opportunity so that they can earn a little bit amount of money is a very, very small part of the livelihood puzzle that we are trying to solve for the transgender and the gender variant youth. There are so many other factors, there are so many nuances that one has to also understand. But then to also warn you at this point of time, through a quantitative study, it will be impossible to capture the nuances. For that, one has to dive deep into their life, one has to speak to them, one has to try one has to understand how their lives are being shaped with all the transphobia, homophobia, misogyny that we see in a patriarchal world. How even a smallest experiences of their childhood is shaping their understanding of their own life, of their own livelihood, and their own rights and their own choices as well, right? So so with this, I will start presenting what I has prepared for myself. Please current share. Just a moment. Where is it? You're able to see my screen, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So let me quickly slide show. So the name of the study, just a moment. The name of the study was Demographic Aspirations, Skill Set, Livelihood Mapping, and Socioeconomic Conditions of Transgender, Gender Diverse, and then the larger gender and sexual minority communities. We have done it in collaboration with Plexus India Foundation in West Bengal. We have collected so far for this particular research, we have collected around 350 data from the field, but then Plexus didn't stop it there. They have been conducting this study ever since, and then at this point of time they have collected more than 2000 data from the rural transgender, I mean, like from the rural transgender and the larger gender and the sexual minority communities, right? So the first section of ours was the demographic information, where we have asked about around 23 questions has been asked. So the 91 question that we talked about in the demographic section, 23 questions were asked alone, right? Among which 21 questions can be analyzed in different ways. There are six themes. There are six thematic areas in this particular section. One was definitely the basic information: your name, your email ID, your age, where do you stay, your phone number, etc. Whether you have phone number or not, but initially when we started, we thought, okay, everybody would have the phone number, everybody would have the email ID, right? But then later we were so very wrong to assume that everybody would have phone number and everybody would have email ID, right? We thought, okay, from our own sense of privilege, when we designed the questionnaire, we didn't know. Later, the question had to be changed as well. The second theme was gender and sexual identity, and whether the person is out with with their identity. Then literacy rate, and then the language proficiency, religion, caste and community, disability, mental health condition, and romantic relationship and aspirations, right? So these are the six themes that we talked about. When we, in the slide before, when we talk about, okay, this is also an aspiration mapping study, we didn't have one single question to understand the aspiration. The the aspiration theme was actually part of every single section, where we asked different questions to understand how the aspirations are being shaped, right? So in this particular slide, in this presentation, I will be analyzing, sorry, four questions, not five, four questions. Urban rural demographic is something that I'll be asking. Email ID, whether they have email ID or not, that's something I'll be asking. Whether they're literate or not, that's something I'll be asking. And then I'll be analyzing, and their mental health condition is something that I'll be analyzing, right? So urban rural demographic, around 57% of our surveyed transgender and GSM community individuals stay in Gram Panchayat. Gram Panchayat means in the rural area. 43% them live in the municipality areas. However, when we're talking about municipality areas, these are not metro cities, these are small town which also has the feeling of a village or rural area, but then they also have a municipal corporation or municipality in that particular place. We have conducted this study in districts which are predominantly rural in West Bengal. So 57% of the population live in the rural parts of India or West Bengal. As per 2011 census data from India, around 36% Indians are from urban spaces. As per 2023 to 24 Economic Survey of Government of India, around 40% Indians are from urban spaces. Here we found that around 43% of them are from the municipality or in the so-called urban areas, right? Then email ID. This is a very interesting like journey that we had. Initially, we had just okay, you need to tell about your email IDs. But then later, when we went to the field on the very second day of our field research, we realized that most of them are not being able to tell what email ID is, and then our researchers are taking a long time to explain them what this question is about. For example, I'm giving you an example of the conversation that we happened. So question, what's the email ID? Answer was, what's that? Then the researcher was asking, it's on your phone. Then they literally had to hand over the phone to us. They were like, we don't know what you're talking about. That's my phone. Can you please check whatever you want, right? So we realized that these are for just to answer this question, the researchers are spending more than 5 minutes. And then you have to also understand that when we go to the field to do the survey, the people who are being surveyed, they are not interested uh, to to respond to take part in this type of survey, right? Because it's also a labor loss for them, right? They have to come to a certain area and then participate in that. So we have to also, incentivize this sort of labor loss. So what we have done, we have conducted survey camps where different services are being given. For example, in one of the survey camp, we have done a health checkup, right? So whether they have any health related concern, a regular health checkup along with HIV and intervention program as well. And then we had to also give them some kind of gifts so that they can be interested to participate in this. So in one camp, you have around 60 participants, 60 participants, and then they are always in a hurry, right? So the researchers cannot spend more than 15-20 minutes for each candidate. So what we do, we go along with 6-7 researchers, and then we try to complete the interviews within 4 and 4.5 hours, or maximum 5 hours, because the interviewees are constantly in rush to leave the space and then go home, right? So that's why we cannot afford to spend more than a minute for one each question. So when we realize, okay, for the email IDs, because of the lack of understanding of email ID, there are researchers are spending more time, then we had to change the question, the pattern of the question. Now we have three options in the question: whether one can recall email ID, whether they have email ID, or whether they do not have email ID at all, right? Moment somebody is saying, okay, I don't know what email ID is, then you do not have email ID. When somebody is saying, okay, I might have, but then it's on my phone, I can't recall it, then you know at least what email ID is, right? So accordingly, we are doing that. So in this, 55.6% of the respondent cannot recall email ID. So around 75% people either cannot recall email ID or do not have email ID, right? And only 25.9% people have email ID, and then they have told what the email ID is. Uh, However, almost all of them are literate in the sense of they can sign. We have realized that around 90.2% of the respondents can sign, only 9.8% cannot sign their names. Mental health condition, very, very important. 95.2%, it's a staggering number. 95.2% people have said that they have certain mental health conditions, mental health issues. Please remember, these mental health conditions, anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, etc., they are not born with these challenges. They have to, they have to face these atrocities. They have to face these challenges primarily because they are excluded. They're not included. As Madam talked about inclusion, the importance of inclusion, one of the impact of exclusion is mental health condition, anxiety, depression, OCD, different types of suicidal thoughts. Even we have found people with auditory hallucination, etc., because their childhood has been completely ruined from violence, etc., that they have they have received, right? So that's why I made it like this, because most of them are mad. I'm like completely mad. I'm like in that way. Then we have education. Then the second section was education and other necessary skills. As Madam talked about how important school education or education is in the inclusion aspects, right? In this section, we have asked total 10 questions, and 10 of them can be analyzed in multiple ways. There are three themes, of course: school education, higher education, and other skills. In the presentation, I will be talking about three things: bullying, school dropout, whether are we in terms of the national average, bullying at school, and aspiration of how the small childhood aspirations of power is shaping their life in future. That is something we are very interested to understand here, right? So school dropout, my God, 79%. Around 79% of the trans and GSM individuals have dropped out from the formal education. So, as Madam said, 87%. It, it was, in our understanding, it's such a little less, but then not drastically less. Around 79% of transgender and the gender variant youth, they drop out from formal education before appearing 12th board exam. Only 21% could pass 12th board exam. Many of them also drop out after the exam as well. Many of them do drop out after going to the college or university as well. That is something I am not going to discuss here. So interestingly, 14.5% have never gone to school. They are completely illiterate. They have never seen school. Around 11% them have left school during primary education. 9%, 9% of them before standard 8. 38% of them between 8 and 10. It's very important at this point of time to understand. It's a staggering 38% them leave school between 8 and 10. What happens? What happens between class 8 and 10 that a staggering 38% them leave school? One of our assumption is puberty happens. The moment you hit puberty, then different kinds of bodily changes happen, and they get a lot more bullied. And school, it's not just bullied, different forms of violence we have heard. We have also heard one student getting bullied since class 1, standard 1, for their effeminate behavior as well. So you see the number 38% is between 8 and 10, 27% is between 10th and 12th board exam, right? In Pan India stat, just 12% is them are enter India, just 12% is them are school dropout before 12th board exam. But here for the community, 79% of them have dropped out from school before 12th standard. It's a staggering number. But do we have any redressal? No, there's no redressal. 86.4% is them have, have complained about getting bullied. It's an important quote I have written down. In 2018, there was an incident happened in West Bengal, in Indian state of West Bengal, in the city of Calcutta, where probably in one of the schools there was like a bullying of two lesbian women, and then the education minister of West Bengal said, okay, no, we cannot accept homosexuality, we cannot accept transgender people in this. Even if the Supreme Court of India says that, okay, this is absolutely normal, absolutely legal, we cannot accept all these things. What are we teaching our children? But very interestingly, a class 3 standard. So when we're saying a class 1, a standard 1, standard 3 students knows whom to bully, what to name call on the basis of one gender expression. So we should be teaching our children something else. That is this slide is all about. Around 86% did them face bullying at school and the very beginning of their study. Becoming class monitor, very important.
Dr. Abhinava, sorry to interrupt you. I have been reminded of time. So
yeah. I'm going to be very quick now. So becoming class monitor is one of the slides that I have shown here. Living situation, total 16 questions asked, 4 themes. In this, I'll be talking about just current living situation, current place of living, and whether they would like to leave their family homes. Current living situation, around 55.4% do live with their family, but 23.8% also do live with the community, right? And then 10.9% do live alone, 9.9% live with the partner. But then, do all of them want to leave their home? That's the question we have asked. Yes, 85% them said, yeah, we would like to leave our home. Around 15% said, no, we would like to stay with our biological family. So these 85.2%, they will eventually leave their home one day, what the situation is, right? Social capital, 7 questions were asked, 4 themes, occupations of parents, what is the support system of the individual, community support, harassment at different public spaces. Madam talked about how safety is important, not just at home, but also in public places as well. In this thing, inheritance is something that we have realized, okay, my God, only 20% of them will inherit their family property. Around 80% of them will not inherit, be it by their choice, be it by force, or be it whether they're not sure whether that they are named in the inheritance at all, right? Then multifaceted violence in public place, 90%, 91, around 91% people complained about facing some kind of violence, harassment, be it sexual violence, physical abuse, verbal abuse, etc. Only 9.3% said they do not face any harassment. But then they also have the community support. A staggering 96% people have said they feel a sense of belongingness within the community when they are with the community and when they are staying with the community. Livelihood, then 17 questions were asked, but then here I'll be talking about just one question, one very important question. There are 4 themes: whether they have source of income, type of work and the income, their condition of the workplace, and willingness to develop professional skills and finding new job. Here we're talking about um, around what, less than 2,500 per month income, Indian rupees 2,500, 8.1%. Between 2,500 and 5,000 is 16.2%. Between 5,000 and 9,500 is 40.5%. So this entire number, which is around 60-70% of this number, is people who are earning less than 10,000 a month, less than 10,000 Indian rupees a month. That's a staggering number. In India, it is 11.28%. In West Bengal, it's 8.3%. But for us, it's 65%. Financial inclusion, 12 questions were asked. Here we're talking about bank account, whether we have bank account or not. Yes, they have bank account. Thanks to the Prime Minister Jan Dhan Yojana, where like zero balance bank account has been opened and multiple NGOs took part in the initiative and then they have opened their bank account. Still, it's 83.5%. But then, do they have any savings? The answer is no. Around 76% people says they do not have any saving or they save occasionally. Only around 14% people have said they have regular savings. Government documents, we have asked 9 questions here. But here we're talking about just the transgender identity card that has been given to the transgender community by the government of India at this point of time. One quote I have used here, would getting transgender card ensure my meal? So when we ask people whether they have the transgender card or not, around 76% people say they don't know about it or they don't have it. They don't understand what the benefits of it. So one person asked me, would getting transgender card ensure my meals? So that comes the fallacy of the identity document, like, and why it might not be working within the community as well. Tech savviness, 11 questions were asked. Smartphone, many of them do have smartphone. Even if they don't have income, they have smartphone. And then almost all of them are on social media. So Twitter, Facebook or Instagram, almost all of them are on social media, right? So that's what the study is all about. It's not a lot, but then I couldn't analyze all the questions that we have asked. It will take another year for us to analyze all the data and then come up with the paper, of course. But then so far, this is the presentation. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yeah, I'll continue from the study. We head straight into the whole aspect will be the empowering mechanism. So the whole key considerations on the basis of these insights was that we looked at people who do not, the kind of intervention that will not require any formal school education or academic credentials, so that we actually look at the very last, the most marginalized in our intervention, in our experiment. And most importantly, we're very particular about practical hands-on learning, which was a part of our assurance given during the mobilization and counseling phase, because classroom-based instruction for those who are school dropouts can be very, very unsettling, and it will be difficult for sitting through. And it summoned certain, experience of, trauma, etc., which we didn't want to replay. The other is a importance of enabling a relatively low learning curve environment, quicker skill acquisition, and faster income generation, which was also an experiment that we have successfully been trying to look at in our Government of India scheme under Ministry of Rural Development, which is DDU-GKY. So utilizing skill development for income generation and quicker poverty eradication. So then the other key aspect is, can we look at organizing this training through collectives or SHGs or through enterprise models, in a sense that there should be a peer support, there should be resource sharing, and if at all any risks, there are chances of that to be mitigated. And more importantly, it should be, what we are venturing into should be adaptable to both rural and peri-urban contexts, and where we should be able to leverage the existing markets, the consumption patterns. We should be able to reach the market quickly, and the raw materials, procuring the raw materials, the infrastructure, these aspects should not become a burden, because these are concerns when we have much of resources or budget or fund at hand. So our action lab, we set up places, one in Baripur district in West Bengal, and the other in Pollachi, Tamil Nadu, where two very prominent community-based organizations, NGOs exist. That is Plexus India Foundation, and the other being Sahodri Foundation. And however, we did conduct initial exploratory meetings to build the connect, to establish trust and faith. So first, we wanted to do one in Telangana. So we met Ms. Leila Oruganti, who is another community-based leader, extremely influential, will be able to quickly mobilize thousands of district rural SHGs, and we met her. And then the second was with Kalki Subramaniam, who is an artist, who is an activist, and who's a celebrity in her own right, and who's also has had some early success in the space of livelihood, providing for the transgender group there, in the SHGs there. So we thought we could see where this would work out well, or we could conduct in both these places. However, we had to leave the idea of following up with Telangana, because whatever intervention we could think of, the greatest concern was infrastructure. And so we thought we could think of it in phase 2. So we finally closed down on looking at Plexus India Foundation to look at setting up action lab in West Bengal, and the other one in Tamil Nadu. And then the key question came up, what trades or what kind of enterprise that they could be considering setting up. And then began another round of journey to look at the market, to look at the infrastructure, and all of those key considerations that were shared earlier. We, of course, had a longer vision to say that, once the action lab becomes successful, we should be able to provide credit linkages. We should be able to support formation of more SHGs where it has not taken place, and eventually looking at a larger premise of rural cooperatives for transgenders at a much larger scale. And more importantly, we thought we should be in the second phase look at brand development and so on. Now we were in for many surprises. So while we were exploring, we started off with NIRDPR itself in a rural technology park where a lot of trainings for marginalized groups take place. Whether we could bring the beneficiaries for training into Hyderabad NIRDPR, the duration of the training, etc. We then visited T-Works in Telangana to understand, once training or if there is an innovative idea coming up, what is the kind of intervention that T-Works Telangana will be able to provide, what kind of incubation support they'll be able to provide. And then we also reached out to Usha International and to understand for the apparel training. They're already doing a lot of work in the rural SHG women space, and how open they would be to be able to pilot one for the rural transgender population. So these talks were conducted, and we also later went on an exposure visit to Vanavara Institute of Agriculture to understand what kind of trainings and incubation support that they provide for rural skilling. So I'll first quickly uncover the journey of the Action Lab 1, which happened in Pollachi, Tamil Nadu, with Sahodari Foundation. Our journey began with a thought that when we visited Pollachi, earlier thought was we could look at apparel, we could look at various other coir related, but then ultimately we thought, why not coconut? Because Pollachi is known for coconut palms, rich, dense coconut plantations, and there's easy availability of coconut, and all these discussions ultimately ended on a point that something easily available without any investment is coconut shell. So from coconut shell, we realized when we explored with the market and internet and other avenues, we realized that we could make very many interesting products out of coconut shells, which could range from materials for supporting green hospitality, create jewelry, and to create artifacts. Given the kind of artistic inclinations that Sahodari Foundation leader already had, we thought it is much easier to be able to transition to a coconut shell craft training because the raw material is easily available without investing much, and with limited investment on tools and time to learn the craft and the limited infrastructure that it would require. We found a trainer after a long search. It took about 2 months to find a suitable trainer, and the markets that we identified were corporates for gifting purposes, international clients more from a environmental sensitivity, eco-friendly products, etc., and also the high visibility that the community-based organization leader already enjoys, both nationally and internationally, which will help the rural marginalized transgender persons to be able to do the production and hit the market. So we conducted the training on 25th to 27th July, 3 days with 11 participants, and this includes the CBO leader. She said, let me also learn so that I'll be able to guide them once the intervention is over. So the setup cost revolved around the training cost, workshop cost, the fee for the resource person, the stipend for the participants, because they are very important because they have other small livelihood, their other income. So so we needed to make up for what they're losing each day, their food, and more importantly, the tools that we needed to procure. Then we thought, while the discussions happened, we realized that when we are getting into coconut shell crafting and getting into the business, very often it so happens that the artists buy the coconut itself to suit the size, to get the expected size of the shell, and they end up buying the coconut. So we thought, as a phase 2 of the Action Lab, we could think of at a next stage, coconut product processing, which includes anything that could range from coconut oil to coconut chips, coconut soap, which are food items. And there are other very many things that one could be making with coconuts. So for that, we had visited Vanavarayar Institute of Agriculture, and they said that it will take at least about a month's training, and with a kind of scheme or grant linkage with NABARD. So the community-based, so we left the choice with the community-based organization, what exactly she would like to begin with. So she and discussed with the mobilized group, and then we left the choice to them. So they came back by saying, we'll begin with coconut shell crafting. And that's how we conducted the training on coconut shell craft. And we conducted the training in Pollachi itself, so that, people from the nearby rural area, they will not have a difficulty to travel. These are just pictures of our visit and exposure visit, because the Coconut Board has invested a lot in the Vanavarayar Institute for developing and incubating coconut value-added products. And in the future, we hope to get support. Now, here is the picture of actual intervention with coconut shell crafting. You will find the CBO leader, Kalki Subramaniam, mobilizing the SSG members and making them understand what's in it for them. And you'll see the picture of the training intervention happening. And I was personally there while this training was happening. Small correction, the training took place in the Lions Club Hall, not the Rotary. And these are the tools that we purchased under the project grant. And we could see the complete involvement and full engagement and attendance of the participants, and a sense of achievement, because you will see now on this next slide, which I hope you are able to see, called Highlights of Training under Action Lab 1. On the right-hand side, you will see a cup there. This was actually made on day 1. And the sense of achievement that they had by making that coconut shell cup is something I cannot express here. In the mobilized group, there was one disabled person who had who had a speaking disability, and in a later stage, we could actually see her a lot more into action as we proceeded with the enterprise. So their education ranged from 3rd standard to ITI, and they were mostly from the rural Pollachi area, and their monthly income on an average, all of together, were less than 9,000 INR. And their current source of income ranged from catering, odd multi-work, and occasional agriculture work. And we bought 24 types of tools and materials, including gloves and aprons, which we purchased from the Coimbatore and Pollachi and Madurai markets. Then we conducted training, as already mentioned, and we got very good support from the Lions Club as patrons supporting this entire training, and they kept visiting and encouraging the participants. And we invited the NABARD district development manager and the district welfare officer from the Ministry of Social Justice, and they attended as guests at the valedictory. We thought that will be a motivation. And so then further motivated by the entire experience of this training, the community-based organization, the beneficiary group, they themselves organized a practice workshop within 10 days of attending the skill training, and they practiced the skill, and they kept informing that, we are doing this. And then the next step they on their own took was to take up an exposure visit. We had given the information about another successful cocoa craft business. So they undertook a visit to Kerala on their own and met the entrepreneur to understand their best practices. So the advantage of inviting a district welfare officer was, it led to a media coverage. And the second is a certificate distribution by the district development manager of NABARD, was that he assured support from NABARD and necessary guidance to be able to submit a DPR. So in conclusion of this action lab, it was a good happiness for them that on day 2 of the workshop, they were able to receive the order. They immediately, within a month or 2, they came up with a branding called Cocoa Friends. It came up in a casual conversation, how are our Cocoa Friends doing? They said, hey, let's call our brand also Cocoa Friends. And with a tagline, Trans Hands and Timeless Craft. So there's a lot of promotion through social media. And they began with the production with an initial order of 60 pieces. And as Christmas and New Year season came up, they got more orders, wedding gifts. You can see them packing a gift here in this picture. and they don't have infrastructure. So currently, even they are doing the production in a farm in Pollachi, which is somebody who is supporting them, and it really has helped people tackle depression, and a lot of positive involvement from the speech impaired trans person in the entire production cycle. And now they have reported appetite for more power tools and next level training. And now they have come up with a product catalog, and they are constantly on the process of product improvisation. They are observing consumer behavior in exhibitions where they are taking these products. For instance, they made they made coconut shell candle holder, and they saw that that they were smelling the product. So then they started to put in organic essential oil to make it scented, and now they are using soy candles, and then they have actually got that value added statement there in the product catalog. So the key learnings revolved around the importance of the community-based organization support to be able to not only begin, but also sustain the enterprise initiatives, and it should align with their ethos and sensibility. And we as resource organizations need to take a lot of effort to and take more initiatives to take skills to and livelihoods to rural transgenders, and we have to design skill training based on the schedule of the trans persons without affecting their ongoing income avenues. So complete customization was an important thing in the action lab, and the location, the decision of the location, flex as per their requirement, and the importance of the support of their own family, and we all ended up working as one family. That was also important. Current challenges still revolve around getting rental space, infrastructure, access to schemes, which we want to take up in the second phase. And now, as we speak, there's a support that we are expecting from the district magistrates for either the production center or a product outlet. And the work is in progress to prepare DPR for for NABARD to process the funding. I would like to then move in quickly to the action lab in Kolkata, which action lab. There are 3 action labs that have been set up successfully. One is on mushroom cultivation. So the training took place with 15 individuals participating, and the pictures of the training you can see here. And currently they have 78 individual customers, which I think is good. They are now looking at exploring bulk buyers at schools, barracks, and prisons. And the other is spice grinding. In this current market, after the training, is 123 families with 4 grocery stores. We followed the same principles followed in the other action lab as well, making the training crisp and quick with quicker results, and engaging, because the training, there was a market survey, which was a highly engaging exercise about understanding quality when procuring raw materials, and also getting how to get orders, how to speak to the shopkeepers to ask for, to get orders, and then more importantly, how to identify qualitative raw materials. So we identified a trainer who is a businessman himself, so that at tier 1 we were able to train the trainees at the grassroots level on hygienic production, spice processing and market survey, and market exposure. At tier 2, the same business person who was also the trainer, he conducted an orientation for the Plexus India Foundation on the FSSI license application, the schemes, the credit linkages, procurement of materials, and so on, which could be taken up more like a mentor. So, this small scale production and supply has commenced, and supply, as we speak, 123 families and 4 grocery stores are now the customers, and this is something we are happy to share. The other is another intervention experiment with Usha International. Usha, like I mentioned earlier, they were only doing interventions for rural women. With this, we signed into an agreement with Usha International, where they decided to have a pilot on action lab for conducting apparel stitching training for rural transgenders And the point of concern was the duration of this training, because this skill cannot be learned very quickly. So as per the Usha process, it was for 25 days, and we requested that since it's a pilot, Usha was kind enough to provide 15 machines. One of it is electrical, 3 semi-industrial, and the other pedal machine. And the other had to, talks are currently in progress with companies for bulk orders. However, Usha, in collaboration with NDTV, covered this initiative in an episode in January 2025, in which the DG of CIRDAP, NIRD&PR, and Plexus team were interviewed. This is now available on YouTube, and the episode is called Kaushalta Ke Kadam. It's one of the episodes in the series. So Usha, generally, once they get into the intervention, what they do is they set up a training cum production center. So the Bariyupur infrastructure that they had was an advantage, wherein they were able to train and as well as house these machines, and they could continue with the production in the space available, and for the beneficiaries to come in and pursue their livelihood. So here in the board, they have actually written what all they learned to stitch. And currently, we are now on talks with bulk buyers and domestic businesses, companies for bulk orders. What we also felt important is the sensitivity and orientation for the trainers on the beneficiary group that they are training on, and the importance of flexibility to be able to accommodate the ethos and more importantly, sensibilities of our transgender persons. What we saw as key outcome is certainly definitely increased skill, and with increased skill, improved confidence, much more confidence, and they felt ready to set up the enterprise. So that was viral in terms of the feeling that we got, and the engagement, great engagement with markets and institutions. And more importantly, the next level, at a macro level, the enhanced importance of understanding of compliance, finance management, how collectively one can run enterprise, and more importantly, how they need to sustain it. So, but it's also a collective realization of the community level capacity to be able to sustain livelihoods. Here, the question was, what are the key challenges and constraints that we faced? Very many in terms of both structural and contextual constraints, which we shared as we proceeded with this presentation, and operational and implementation challenges, which we did our best to overcome collectively. Then the enterprise readiness, market constraints, acceptability on the other side, the budgetary constraints, and for which we were able to leverage, because when we know the constraints are less, we tend to become more innovative. So that we got a lot of CSR or individual support, and then organizations like Usha coming in, which actually enhanced our bandwidth. The other was the unavailability of infrastructure cum production space, which we are still battling with in some cases. And and for an enterprise to sustain, there should be sustained mentoring at least for a year, and there should be some sort of what we call patronage, and it needs to be a bit of an institutionalized approach, especially because these are marginalized communities. And so our lessons learned was that any initiative of this kind needs to be evidence-led, and it should be need-based so that there is uptick. And entrepreneurship, of course, all of us here are aware that it requires an ecosystem support in a much larger scale. And then very important is the adaptive sequencing. We need to be like rivers. So if we see a blockage, then we find another way of moving forward. So that's something we experienced and we carried out. Only community-based implementation can build trust, and only they can take this forward. And that was a great lesson learned. We felt that well-being and livelihoods are interconnected, because once you start to see the importance of being able to earn, then it also positively impact mental health. And to be able to plan and think beyond the conventional is, we need to be prepared for it when we get into an action lab activities or interventions of this kind. And we also needed, importantly, more budget, because a lot of travel would be required for more sustained monitoring, guiding, hand holding, and for institutionalized mentoring, more importantly, and finally to place this any of these models on the orbit of what we call self-sustenance. So we would like to say that it was a deeply transforming journey, personally and professionally, for us, and more importantly, an emotional journey too. So we think that our way forward should be the sustenance of entrepreneurship-based livelihood models that we have been able to set up, for which the previous points we are trying to look at in phase 2, and continue to strengthen the market linkages and providing the institutional support and all the mechanisms required, and deepening the collective and SSG based approaches, so that an ecosystem and risks are mitigated, and to set up and project and showcase how well-being and livelihood supports could be mutually supportive, and then also doing knowledge dissemination and regional learning, which we have commenced. Thank you to CIRDAP for that. And something is a dream. We are continuing to dream our dreams of placing all these models in the orbit of replicability, though as we speak work is going on, but we still feel there should be a lot more institutionalized mechanisms that we have presented in the previous slides to be able to sustain it. So before I formally conclude, I wanted to request Avinabha to share maybe a 1 minute anything that I have missed mentioning in the Action Lab presentation, so that then we can conclude.
Thank you, ma'am, for the excellent presentation. There was two things. There are two things. There are like two, three things that I wanted to talk about the Action Lab in West Bengal, because I was part of it since beginning. So one thing is like they also have one more Action Lab that we talked about is the poultry farming. The infrastructure has been built so far, and then we are looking at the training in collaboration with RCT and other institutes as well. So that's a fourth Action Lab in West Bengal that's happening. There are two observations that I had to share. One is where the fact that there are transgender individuals who are devoid of education, um, school education, very basic school education, and for them entrepreneurship model, enterprise-led livelihood model are the only way at this point of time. However, when we have interviewed people, we have realized that almost all of them do have an aspiration to work in the formal sector. So all they want to do is like they would like to wake up in the morning, take shower, cook their meal, and then they want to go to office. And then they want to come back from the office in the evening and then spend the rest of the night the way they want, or the rest of the evening the way they want, right? That's an class aspiration that almost all marginalized, transgender, and the gender variant youths have, right? So, but then we have also realized we have to be principled, pragmatic about it. So, what we have done in West Bengal, that's one experiment, we have given them identity card. So, while they are coming to the work, or while they are coming to the training center, we have given them identity card so that they would feel like the entire experience of coming to the work, or the entire experience of coming to the training space would feel like they are coming to the formal workspace. That was one experiment that we have done, and they worked wonderfully. People who are not interested initially, they have enthusiastically taken part in the entire exercise because of one having one identity card where their preferred name has been written. Number one. Number two is in the action lab, in the apparel making action lab, we have also realized let us also mix the group with 2 or 3 women, because all transgender individuals, but then if we include women, we might be able to women might be able to inspire them a lot more, because women have higher tendency of higher like tendency of higher being organized, etc. But then that didn't work in our favor. Unfortunately, there was a rivalry because the trainer who came to the training space, he was more interested in teaching the women trainees than the transgender trainees. But then, so our that experiment didn't work out well for our favor. So there are like 2, 3 things that I wanted to share, and thank you for the excellent presentation, Madam.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, sir. Actually, we are at the end of our webinar, so we are just roughly 5 to 10 minutes. We are going to have this interactive section. Ma'am, there is some comments or questions in the chat box. Do you like to read and answer or express your opinion on that? At the end of,
Yes,
yeah.
started going through the questions and comments. First of all, thank you, participants for the encouragement and the comments here. I think there are certain comments and some examples that we could be looking at from Nepal, which is commented here. So we'll certainly take a note of it. Which says Nepal is doing much in advance, so constitutionally and cognition wise. So we'll be very keen to study the Nepal model.
The individual who spoke about Nepal, Yamuna, Ghel, thank you so much. So I am personally inspired by Nepal. Personally speaking, I have been following the Nepal's larger LGBTQI movement for more than a decade. I mean, like, and then your Blue Diamond Society individual is a personal friend of mine. So, and then I'm delighted to see that you have elected one MP, a transgender MP in your parliament as well. Just to let you know, we have also studied Nepal's example in one of our uh, different project where we had to study the different models across the world, different inclusive model across the world. Thank you for reminding it once again. It will be interesting how we can take up this work to Nepal, because you have done fantastic in terms of inclusion. And I know about this renaming of the Child and Women Welfare Ministry to Gender and Sexual Minority Ministry, including the sexual minority as well. Fantastic move. Really proud of Nepal. And at least one of the South Asian nations have been doing so very well in terms of this. So we would like to take it up with you and then the other government official to see if there are ways to replicate this model in terms of livelihood generations.
There is another comment from one of our MOU partners, BIID, Shahiduddin Akbar. You can read that comment, sir, or Sandhya ma'am.
Yeah, the OBOP, right? The One Village, One Product, that initiative, right?
Yes.
So yeah. So in Bangladesh as well, we know and then we know there are several work has been happening in terms of rural development as well as inclusion of transgender persons. I mean, like they call it Hijra population, the inclusion of transgender and the sexual minority communities as well. So would be very happy to see how this livelihood initiative, our action lab research, how they can be replicated in the Bangladesh context as well. And then there are community-based organizations working in different districts of Bangladesh. I know about, not just in Dhaka, but then other areas, Rangpur, Chittagong, Chattogram, Sylhet, different other, Moymonsingo as well. I know one of the groups working in Moymonsingo, that entire area as well. So would be very happy to see if this can be replicated in different districts of Bangladesh as well. I know a very good individual in Rangpur, working in Rangpur, so I can put you in touch with him and then see if there are any ways to support them in terms of livelihood generations.
Thank you, sir. Now, yes, ma'am.
I think Professor Vasanthi Rajendran.
Yes. Dr. Vasanthi, ma'am, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Rain. Greetings to all of you, to His Excellency, the Director General of CIRDAP, and the presenters today, Dr. Sandhya and Dr. Datta, and all the participants. It was indeed a very, very interesting and very relevant and very much needed topic, which CIRDAP has sponsored. I would like to actually congratulate the Director General, for taking up and initiating such activities. It's really a very good initiative, I would say. I'd like to congratulate him. And the presentation was, the study, the way they have conducted it, the action lab, also very, very professional. And I joined today, also mainly because of my interest in youth, and this being, specifically for those very, very marginalized youth, the transgenders. I thought, let me see what this study is, what are the findings of this study. Quite impressed, with the finding that Dr. Datta presented. The study that he had conducted, I don't know whether it was conducted in Bengal or Pan India, but because you were mentioning about 70 initiatives Pan India, I didn't catch whether this study, because whether if it was conducted in Bengal, and the way the number of action labs that generated after this study, about 4 or 5 of them, and only one in the south, whether we need to take up studies, because this transgender youth is a group which is very, very should be very specific to any particular area or any particular region. So whether we need to conduct studies before we take the action lab, because if you see in in Pollachi, very few participants have come up in that particular initiative. So I think there is a need, because it would be very much the socioeconomic study, profile of the beneficiaries is very important. Therefore, I think a study need to be conducted anywhere, before we take up such projects, for it to be, because you are stressing on that aspect of sustenance of the initiatives. This is one. And the second thing that I would like to know is whether, you have mentioned youth. What was the age group? Because I couldn't get this information during the course of the presentation. Did you, stick to the definition of youth as per Government of India? Was it in that particular group, or whether it, because transgenders can be, from any age group? And then how do you, now that you have conducted these action research, especially in Bengal, where you have done 3 or 4, action labs, I think it's very nice if you can replicate them. And already there is a request from Bangladesh and Nepal, being neighboring countries. I think it is good to replicate these models there too. So I just want to, to know from the Dr. Datta and Dr. Gopakumaran, whether what I have raised, whether these issues are relevant. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vasanthi, ma'am. And thank you for your questions as well. I would like to clarify a couple of things here. One is regarding the survey. We had conducted the deeper survey that Abhinaba Datta presented in the districts of West Bengal. The 70 livelihood initiative, that mapping study was conducted way before the survey activity. This was across India. This was done during 2022, 23, 24 period, where we across the country we reached out to various organizations associated with transgender and other sources to be able to map the livelihood initiatives and what is successful and what is not. The survey, the 338 members survey, was conducted in West Bengal, just to understand what kind of aspirations youth have, especially transgender youth have, on those parameters that were shared by Dr. Datta. I completely subscribe to the point that you mentioned, Professor Vasanthi Rajendran, that we should be able to conduct deeper study in the South as well. However, due to time constraints, and also because NIRDPR directly wanted to also experience and experiment an action lab, and we found that there was an opportunity in rural Pollachi where we will be able to have the necessary support, so which will act both as a survey and an understanding as well as an experiment. So we were trying to take a multi-pronged approach in that. So it was another experiment totally. But yes, we need to have deeper studies, which we were able to do consequently, ma'am. That happened about recently, the last 6 months, from which we again had a lot of insights. However, I mean, more studies would be good for us to have more sustainable outcomes. To answer the other question about youth, though the term youth was used there, we have actually in some of our schemes for women and other groups up to the age group of 45, 18 to 45, ma'am. So you will find some of the participants who are slightly up to the age of 45 in this.
Ma'am, just to
And
also
I will
answer,
also
just to also answer to
Abhinava, you
your,
can.
yeah, sorry, just to also answer to your question, we of course see the importance of collecting data and then creating evidence. Our primary objective at this point of time is to have a data-driven and evidence-based ecosystem building process, right? We don't just talk about livelihood because livelihood is a part of it. Now we talk about ecosystem making. I'll give an example why is a very important part of this particular journey of ours. Shelter is a very important part that actually enables us to take up livelihood opportunities as well, right? So, for example, we there are one instance where training has been given, job has been secured, but then when the people actually went to jobs, when the people actually have gone to participate in the working activities, they have not found any shelter, any rented apartment or rented house, right? So they had to either leave their job or then wait there for a month or two just to find the shelter, right? So here we're talking about data-driven and evidence-based ecosystem building process. And to do that, in order to do that, our first job is to carry out this deep research that we have been carrying out in West Bengal. Of course, NIRDPR have subsequently we have went to other states as well, but that's a different study altogether. But then we would first like to some pilot study has happened. Now our job is to carry this out throughout India so that we have a good amount of data and understanding based on which intervention models can be developed. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Actually, we are very at the end of our webinar. So now I would like to request our Honorable Director General of CIRDAP, Dr. P. Chandrasekhara, sir, to make the final comments. Sir, over to you.
Again, it was a very interesting presentation. It is indicated by the response you received from the participants, the kind of questions. Thank you, Dr. Sandhya Gopakumaran and Dr. Abhinav Datta for this very interesting, the way you have conducted the research. A few observations. In fact, you dealt with very difficult group. It is more difficult than what, the participant anticipate. Yeah, some of the data which you have highlighted today, that, majority are school dropouts, they're homeless, and they don't have any economic activity. 85% already left home, and 90% outside, they fear violence. And still, only hope is majority of the people, still they feel that they have sense of belonging. So I think, with, 1% hope, you started, this action lab. I think we are empathetic to the entire journey of, mobilizing these people, sensitizing these people, skilling them, bringing different stakeholders, linking them to market, and just to ensure that, this not just end up with learning, but also, create some livelihoods, which is sustainable. I think that particular aspect is taken care from the beginning. When we think about a research project, we end up with research paper. not livelihoods. So, but here, whether it is West Bengal or Saudri Foundation in Pollachi, uh, you know, the fish is not given, but fishing is taught to these people. So they know even without we, all of us, now they know how to lead their life. Earning 9,000 rupees, that means around 300 rupees per day, even if it is minimum. I think that is a great life supporting, mechanism. It speaks about livelihood plus sustainability, both. Uh, Another important observation, while selecting some kind of skills, the kind of resources you took into consideration, especially in Tamil Nadu case, basically you identified a waste material as a resource input. For example, the coconut shells. In coconut garden, basically it is a waste. So that waste is converted into wealth. In the process, not only it is conversion of coconut into wealth, but also the highly vulnerable segment of the society, these people. So when I say waste to wealth, it is applicable not only to material but also to the people. So this, identification of the skill is also very important. In fact, whatever the models you have given, uh, definitely universal replicability is not ensured. Yeah, it all depends on, in fact, Dr. Abhinav told a very important statement. We have to build the, local ecosystem. Local ecosystem depends on the local resources, local challenges, local partners, local consumer preferences, and local market. This is, local ecosystem. So in some places it may be, coconut shell, and in some other cases it may be spices and stitching and many more, mushrooms and many more. So it depends on the local condition, but you have given very broad approaches which are useful to anybody, everybody who deals with the transgender. That means, social mobilization is one. Independently they fail, they have to be in group, and they will survive more if they have more partners, and teaching them skill, linking them to market. So this, very approaches are universally replicable, but the skills are location specific. Oh, it is a very wonderful presentation, and personally I thoroughly enjoyed this. I'm very happy to see somebody from Bangladesh want to work with you, and CIRDAP will be very, very happy to, facilitate this entire process. We will, I am sure, Ms. Hurain make note of this. We can connect our partner in Bangladesh with the Dr. Sandhya and Dr. Abhinav, so that they can have discussion, and let us see how we can replicate it. In fact, we wrote to Usha International. Is it possible to replicate in other countries? So let us see what they say. And even the first batch that trained, the participants, they can also serve as very valuable mentors, because within the group, mentorship plays very important role. So any exogenic leadership, in fact, very interesting observation. Some trainer came, he was very much familiar for teaching, teach stitching only to ladies, not to transgenders. That is how it. So somebody within the group, the students of today, probably they will evolve as teachers for, next generation programs.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Sandhya ma'am. Thank you, Abhinav sir, for graciously accepting our speaker at this webinar. So thank you all the participants for joining with us. Thank you all.